Howdy again everyone, and on the menu today comes a brand new bright aperture ultra wide angle zoom lens for aps-c mirrorless cameras, the Sigma 10-18mm f2.8 DC-DNC or Contemporary. It's coming out very soon for Sony E, Fuji X and L mount cameras, and its price will be £600 here in the UK and I imagine about $700 in the US. I'll try to remember to put the exact amount in the description below, so not cheap by any means, but with its very useful ultra wide angle zoom range, bright aperture and very small size and weight, well, if the quality is there, then it'll be worth it. The zoom range has all kinds of different uses, and shooting at f2.8 is useful when indoors or shooting at night time or for video work. I'd like to thank Sigma UK for letting me borrow a copy of this lens for testing, although as usual this is a totally independent review. As I mentioned, this is a lens for aps-c cameras. If you mount it on full frame, here is the coverage you get. As you can see, heavy masking in the corners at 10mm, quite a lot of coverage though at 12mm, but vignetting again as you zoom into 18mm. I know that some people love to see me test that bit out. The lens's build quality is small and plastic, lightweight, but feels high quality in your hand. It only weighs 260 grams, making it useful for video making with electronic gimbals. Sigma advertised the lens as being dust and splash resistant, and there is indeed a weather sealing gasket around the metallic rear mount. Near that comes the lens's plastic focus ring, which turns smoothly and responds very well with the lens's motor to being turned. As you can see here, focus breathing on this lens is very low, whether you're zoomed in or zoomed out, which might encourage video makers to try out some particularly ambitious focus pulling. The lens's autofocus motor works silently, accurately, and reasonably quickly in single shot autofocus mode, but almost instantaneously when you switch over and shoot in autofocus continuous mode. Nice! The lens's large rubberized zoom ring turns very smoothly and very evenly, just perfect here. The lens comes with a new plastic and rubber hood from Sigma that functions a little differently from normal. It clips in place rather than turning. It's slightly awkward to get used to at first, but once you get the hang of it, it works just as securely as a twisting hood. But apparently the new design means it can be a little smaller, and it can still be reverse mounted. Oh, and very useful is the lens's 67mm filter thread, vital for landscape photography. As usual on an ultra-wide angle lens though, use a slim filter. I use Marumi Fit and Slim polarizing filters, which are very high quality and slim enough not to introduce extra vignetting into your image. My copy of the lens did not come with a carry case, and it does not feature image stabilization. Apart from that though, the lens's build quality is excellent, and its small, lightweight nature makes it especially handy. I remember the days when an f2.8 ultra wide angle lens for aps-c cameras looked like this monster. Only 10 years ago now. How times have changed, for the better. Okay, image quality. I'll be testing it today on a Sony a5100 camera with its 24 megapixel aps-c sized sensor. In-camera corrections are turned on. At the widest angle of 10mm and straight from f2.8, the lens is razor sharp in the middle with neutral colours and excellent contrast, and the corner image quality virtually is good, even at f2.8. That is really impressive, although the image is looking a little darker here, unsurprisingly. f4 and f5.6 look just a touch brighter and clearer in the corners again. The lens stays this sharp down to f11, where a little softness begins to creep in due to diffraction. You can actually stop all the way down to f22 if you want, but diffraction will take a heavy toll. Still, a fabulous start here. And let's zoom into 18mm. Again, straight from f2.8, fantastic quality can be seen in the middle. The corners are just slightly softer, but still pretty awesome really. f4 looks very slightly better, but at f5.6 the corner image quality jumps up a little to being perfect. Again, the lens stays this sharp down to f11, where diffraction begins to soften your image. Overall, really, this is as good as you could ask for. Even from f2.8, from corner to corner across the zoom range, we are seeing excellent sharpness and contrast. So you may fly this particular aircraft with reckless abandon. As the operator's manual for an F-22 states, do whatever you like and this lens will still get you sharp images. Okay, let's turn off those in-camera corrections and take a look at distortion and vignetting when shooting in RAW. At 10mm and f2.8, we see heavy barrel distortion and strong vignetting. At f4 and f5.6, those corners do brighten up quite a lot though. At 15mm, that distortion straightens out, and at 18mm, it flips into moderate pincushion distortion with vignetting again at f2.8, but at f4, the corners brighten up again. So it's a poor performance here, but luckily for Sigma, in-camera corrections are so effective now that your pictures will be fine if you just leave them turned on. A trick up this lens's sleeve is its impressive close focus distance of only 11.6 centimeters. Fantastic really, although at f2.8 close-up image quality is unfortunately very ghostly. Stop down to f4 for a bit more contrast, f5.6 for good quality, and f8 for excellent sharpness. So if you're shooting very close up here, stop down. Let's see how the lens performs against bright light now, which is always an important question when dealing with an ultra-wide lens because they get into your image all the time. At wide angles, even at f2.8, we see no real problems, and when zoomed in, it's only really when the light source is dead center in your picture that we see some glaring. So again, an excellent performance here. And while we're working in the dark, let's see about coma levels, especially as this lens could be of particular interest to astrophotographers. It's good news once again. At f2.8, bright points of light see virtually no coma smearing at all in your image corners, and there's very little color fringing either. Nice. Well, let's zoom out and look for sun stars then. Stop down to f11 and they begin to really emerge. At f16 and especially f22, they get very strong and very nicely defined, so that's another feather in the lens's cap. Finally, bokeh. Well, even at a bright maximum aperture, you have to get very close to your subject for out-of-focus backgrounds here, but when you do, again, no problems at all. Those backgrounds look lovely and smooth to me. Overall, well, the lens essentially gets a completely clean bill of health in virtually all my tests, which is helpful when this thing costs £600, but neither video makers nor still photographers will regret the hit on their credit card because they'll soon discover how much of a beautifully small, useful and perfectly performing thing this is. Apart from the tricky close-up image quality at bright apertures, this lens is a bit of a masterclass in wide-angle optical design, and you will feel it as you're using it, so it has to come highly recommended. Okay, two things. Firstly, if you haven't already, check out the new playlists on my channel, which list my reviews now by camera mount and in other cool ways to help you browse the lens reviews for your camera. And secondly, thanks to my Patreon supporters, of course. Patreon supporters get all kinds of exclusive bonus content and early access to videos, as well as a warm, fuzzy feeling inside them for playing such a big part in keeping this YouTube channel going. Ciao for now, everyone.